What's the number one sports injury, or what's the number one most preventable injury? The weight room. You got high school coaches that have done a weekend course, or they read Muscle Magazine or Muscle and Fitness or something like that, or they lifted weights, so they think they know what they're talking about. And then, or maybe they even know what they're talking about when it comes to weight training. They've actually had courses and stuff. They have a degree in it, but then the problem is they're making a one size fit all. That's where we go wrong, right? I've been a strength coach for over 30 years, and I'm telling you is that what we need to do is design programs that are individual. Not even just for the individual position, like the offensive line. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what about that individual? Why don't we measure them? Because what do I always say? Test, don't guess. If you haven't seen my recent podcast with Woody for The Price of Paradise, you need to check it out, because that's one of the things I talked to him about. So for example, if you're a bench presser and you gotta go down here and the weight goes, and you have to bounce it off your chest, that's a telltale sign that you don't have strength down at the bottom. So what do coaches say? Oh, you need to strength train down at the bottom because you're weak at the bottom. Sounds great, it really does, right? Until you figure out that the Russians had figured this out long ago, and they measure you, what's called anthropometric measurements. In other words, they measure the length of your limbs. I can tell athletes what events they would be good at. I can tell them what they should do in the weight room to keep away from knee injuries, away from shoulder injuries, where they would be strong, where they wouldn't be strong.
Wow, we can actually see our future.
So every athlete, I'm telling you, I'll say, well, after I just look at your ballpark and I look at the numbers and, I'm looking at the angles of his clavicle and stuff, I go, okay, so like the last 2 inches of your chest, you're gonna bounce it off your chest. And they go, yeah.
Yeah.
Me, it doesn't, because of the way my clavicle's angled and stuff, I can leave the bar there, and if I press, and if it's heavy, it's slow, but it's slow the whole way. It doesn't increase in speed. So what I tell them is that last, let's say 2 inches, or if it's 3 inches, I've had some as much as 6 inches off their chest, that's the zone where they're loading up the joint. Joints don't make us stronger. If you stress the joints, it makes you weaker. So playing football, and I go to tackle a guy, and I've been bench pressing all the way to my chest, but I really should be staying like 4 inches off my chest, but I don't know any better. My coach tells me, Bill, take it all the way down, quit cheating. So I take it all the way down, I bounce to get through that zone as fast as possible, because intuitively I know it's damaging my joints. I know it's hurting my shoulder, but it's not in the muscles, like in the joint part, right? And I'm going through it really fast. And now I'm out, I go to tackle a guy and I get my arm hit like that, I blow my arm out. I blow my shoulder, I have a torn labrum. Well, why is that? Because I did this and this and this 10,000 or 100,000 times, and now that area is susceptible to being injured. So if you measure those guys, I've done this before. I had a kid once where he came in and I looked at him, I said, oh, well, you're likely to blow out your ACL. And the coach goes, hey, pull up your pant leg. And I go, oh, so you had an ACL? And he goes, yeah, actually I've had 2. I go, oh. I said, non-contact? And he goes, yeah, both times. I hadn't even stopped and planted. I just went to jump for a ball both times and I blew up my ACL. I go, whatever you're doing in rehab is just re-stressing your knee so that it's just making it weaker and weaker. And it was the ranges he was in, right? We talked about that. So he goes home, tells his dad goes, guy's full of crap, never heard of that, never heard of him. And guess what happened less than a month later? Blew his ACL out for the 3rd time and never played high school football, not one down.
What I did bloody tell you.
Because he was injured for all 4 years. So, again, I'm not trying to say I know everything, I don't, but I tell you one thing, man. I surround myself with people that are way smarter than the average bear. Like way smarter. They're doing things way outside of what we consider to be normal, right? And so that they're always ridiculed in the beginning. And then later, what is it? Oh, that becomes self-evident. Like, of course we knew that. Well, maybe that's what's gonna happen with our measurement system at some point.